Our next speaker is MLA Nicholas Simons. He's the MLA for Powell River Sunshine Coast. Powell River, and Sunshine Coast. He was also up for the leadership of the provincial NDP, and he's also been a long-term advocate for social justice issues, including drug policy reform. So if you'll help me welcome MLA Nicholas Simons.
Thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure to be here. I picture my colleagues watching live stream, half of them hoping I say something outrageous, and the other half hoping I don't. I'll try and meet them in the middle somewhere. But, you know, I wasn't always a politician. I was a social worker for many years, working in child protection and working for First Nations. Shout out to the Seashell Nation. You know, and during that career of going into people's homes and assessing the safety of children, I have to say, never did I worry about the safety of children due to the use of marijuana. I saw on a daily basis had to do with poverty, had to do with, you know, difficulties in parenting skills, but they were not related to a substance. They were not related to marijuana. And just saying that, you know, I think it should be clear. It should be clear that, you know, this kind of discussion at this point in history should not be a controversial subject. But it is because of the way issues are characterized, and that's fair, I understand that. And there are debates in different jurisdictions across North America and in Europe and other places, and you know, this is fundamentally a public policy issue. And my role as a legislator, as an elected member of the Legislative Assembly for Powell River Sunshine Coast, is to make sure that public policy that we pass in the legislature is adequately scrutinized and given proper contemplation and passed if it's in the best interest of the people of the province. Now, clearly, the laws that we're talking about, except for the Sensible Policing Act, we're talking about generally federal issues. But of course, federal issues affect us because we live in Canada, but we also live in British Columbia. And I just think it's important for people in the audience to know that legislation, provincial legislation, gets changed when there is a demand, an expectation, a hope from the citizens of that province to create that change. And that's not always the case. There are some laws that are kind of sometimes a little bit on the edge. You wonder why certain laws get passed, and you wonder how they came about in the first place. But in this case, talking about marijuana, and I've spoken about marijuana in the legislature. In fact, I made a statement once, and it was to do with medical marijuana, that it should be covered by MSP for those who. I find it troubling, just as a somewhat logical person sometimes, that we have a substance that can be prohibited in some cases, yet in other cases recommended. And you know, I've spoken to psychiatrists and psychologists and other social workers, and many of them are concerned with the fact that they know marijuana is good for some of their patients, but they'd like to be able to, you know, with some confidence, determine what strains would be good and what quantities, and that kind of thing can't happen when there's this overarching prohibition mentality that seems to sort of permeate our, you know, the current federal view on this subject. I'm not going to go on too long because you know, all the great things that were said before me were taken right out of my notebook. No, that's not quite true. That's unfair. But I just also want to say, you know, the families concerns that I come across in my role as a social worker, I'm concerned for the well-being of families when their health and safety is threatened by incarceration. That was a problem. When I came across families that were split up because of laws that were unfair. I also just want to say that as a politician, people come to me with problems. So from all over the province, I'm not going to identify people, but I think it's wrong for me to be in a position where I say I can't help someone who's being negatively impacted by marijuana legislation. I know people who are suffering from physical ailments that are alleviated by their access to marijuana. And it's wrong for me to suggest that they shouldn't have access to that. And I think if you carry that logically to its conclusion, we'll see that we have laws that contradict, in a way, what general perceptions are. And as his worship said earlier, I know he doesn't go by that name often, but John said, when we lose confidence in aspects of the criminal justice system, it's difficult to not generalize that to the entire criminal justice system. I'm not saying people should. I have great respect for the work people do, but I would like to just say that if you want laws to change, you need to ensure that your voice is heard, and your voice is heard by those who make the decisions. I'm one politician. It doesn't matter what I say necessarily. It's how we can talk to one another and actually get enough momentum to have laws actually changed. I'm not going to do a political pitch here, but my brother's an evolutionary biologist, and he talks about the theory of many wrongs, and it's the theory that migratory birds, when in a large flock, they're more accurate in their destination. So individually, they may not find their way, but collectively, all by being a little bit wrong, they're actually evening out, and they get closer to their destination. So the bigger the flock, the better the direction. And just remember that when it comes to politics. Thank you very much.